What's up, everybody? How's it going out there in podcast land, huh? Let's see. Welcome to my Gonna See My Friends podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about movies, memories, and everything in between. My name is Steven, and with me is my host, Toby Maximus, a.k.a. Toby Ballinger. How are you doing, Toby?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much, Steven. Happy podcast day.
Oh, I know. Great day.
Great day.
Every episode, we dive into the films that shaped us, the ones we can't stop talking about, and maybe even a few we've never seen. From cult classics to new releases, we break it all down with plenty of laughs, hot takes, and the occasional friendly disagreement. So let's go hang out with our friends. What's up, Tobe? Great week today, huh?
It was a great week. We had fun this week, huh? Me and you and JJ and Eric B went and saw Sparta down in the city with a nice little Tuesday night activities. Yeah, man. One of my all-time favorite bands.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Shout out to Sparta, and I did have a beer. I had 2 beers actually that night, and didn't really feel it. I was exhausted the next day, but I think that was just because I had a lot of fried food and some beers, and it was a late night. So
it was a late night. Yeah, we got back around a little after midnight here in Sonoma County, but. Yeah, I was looking. So I love that venue. Really tiny venue, and got to talk to Matt, the bass player, for a little bit, and he remembered me from 2012 at the Independent. He's like, "Oh yeah, hey, what's up, man?"
Yeah,
he could have been trying me on. Yeah, they're really, really nice guys.
Yeah, dude. There was, just to tell the listeners a little bit, they were playing the album Porcelain, their second album, all the way through, and it was cool because a lot of those songs I'd never heard live.
Yeah.
Even like just going down the rabbit hole of YouTube, I've never seen them live. So it's like,
right.
It was a kind of a bonus to see some of those songs live. So yeah, it's great.
It was, and they played it straight through, track by track.
Yeah.
Which I thought they were going to like mix in some other songs, and just by the end of the day, we'll have played the whole. They played it track 1, track 2, track 3. It was. You knew what song was coming next, and I just had a big smile on my face the whole time.
Yeah.
You and I standing right in front of Jim, dude, right front stage.
That was awesome, dude. And I remember seeing him in 22 or 23.
Yeah, you were VIP, right?
A VIP, and they played Wiretap Scars, their first album, all the way through. And that was amazing because I remember talking to him before, him and Matt, and everybody, there was about 4 of us just talking to him, and we're all asking, hey, so when are you going to put Wiretap Scars out on vinyl?
No.
And he's like, just funny you guys say that. Just hold on, probably about it. And then within the next month or 2, they released it. And I got 2 copies of it. I got a colored, like a splash color vinyl, and then I got the regular black vinyl. So, and I got tons of vinyl from them just from going to shows. It was great. So,
that
hats
is
off
great.
to Sparta.
You were asking them about you. I said you were asking their merch guy if he had any vinyl, and he was like, no, just the signed posters, and they had a couple
signed vinyl
there. They only had a few of them though, right? You didn't have.
Well, there was the vinyl of, it was like a collection of live songs that they put on the vinyl. They didn't have Porcelain. That's what I was asking, if they had Porcelain on vinyl. He was like, no.
Right.
And I missed out on that. I could have bought it, but I was like, well, I'll just wait until something. I can't remember what it was. And by that time it was gone. And so I was shit out of luck on that one. But yeah, my hat's off to that band, man. That was a great show.
Absolutely. Yeah. And hats off to their opener, Mundo, that I really, really enjoyed.
Yeah.
MOONDOUGH. They're on Instagram, and boy, they were a lot of fun. It was a different type of music.
It was really funky.
It was funky, and they were pros. Just, I was watching how they were playing. They were playing thirds and fifths, and
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, are you guys all like band nerds from? He's like, not everybody asked us that, but no, man, we just kind of figured it out. I'm like, fucking incredible, man. Talked to their lead singer afterwards, bought a T-shirt from them. I enjoyed them. I'm like, I'm gonna start downloading some of their music. I enjoyed the heck out of them. So shout out to Moondog too.
Yeah. So great show overall, man. Great show. But the reason we're here is we got a great one this week, don't we? I mean, this one is kind of one of my, and I say this with all of them, but this is probably top 3 of my favorite movies. And yeah, I will say that. I think it's one of Scorsese's underrated gems. I think it's one of his best. And a lot of people say this is kind of a pool, which is, I don't think it is. I think pool plays a really big prominent part in this. Mm-hmm. Of course, we're talking about The Color of Money, Tom Cruise, Paul Newman, and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio. Mm-hmm. Great movie. I always just thought that this was one of my, well, let me rewind that. One of the reasons why I think this is such a great movie is because it is a character study about people. It's just about people who are not where they want to be and maybe potential unfulfilled for, if not for Paul Newman stepping in or, Eddie Felson. It's just, I don't know. It's just a great movie. The way it was filmed, the acting, the writing, I think all across the board, a gem of a movie. When was the first time you saw this movie?
So this would have been something that I had probably recorded off of the TV that, as I've talked about before, Channel 2 used to play movies all the time. And if it was, the Friday 8 o'clock movie, and I probably recorded it off TV and watched, my brother and I watched this. This would have been probably late 80s. So the movie comes out in 86. So it's being played on TV probably 89, 90, somewhere in there. And that's probably around the time that I would have recorded because Troy and I at the time were living at my grandparents' house, and we watched this thing over and over and over because, A, it's Tom Cruise, and I was like, oh, there's also the bonus of Paul Newman. Now, my grandfather enjoyed watching this with us because he's a Paul Newman fan. So, and then, as we're watching this, he was like, oh, he's playing Fast Eddie Felson, and I don't know if this is a technically a sequel, but he's reprising his role as Fast Eddie Nelson from The Hustler in 1961. So this is 25 years later exactly. And at this point, I didn't know what the old man was talking about, right? If you say so. And he's like, yeah, it's The Hustler, and he's playing Minnesota Fats who's played by Jackie Gleason, and I'm like, sure. Yeah, sure. So he ended up buying us a pool table, my brother and I, when we were living there. He bought us a little pool table. It was the intermediate kind, not the big championship size, but there's a smaller one, and then there's an even smaller one below that. But he bought a pool table for Troy and I to play pool on, and my mom was like, I can't believe this. You're going to buy these grandkids. They wanted to roller skate when they were young, and so you paved the driveway for them to roller skate in. Now they're into this Color of Money movie, and you're going to buy them, take your rumpus room and turn it into a pool room. And he was like, hey, man, spoiling my grandkids. What are you going to do? Yeah. That's what grandpas do. So so we watched it probably 40, 50 times, when you have those VHS tapes at home. You plop it in after school, and you just watch it once a week probably. So very near and dear to my heart, but it had been a long time since I'd seen it. So thank you for this. A great choice this week. I was totally blown away. It holds up for me. It brought back a lot of memories, and honestly, now, as we're more cinephiles now than we probably were at the time, watch this movie with a different eye in that now I'm seeing Scorsese is masterful in the way that he filmed this movie.
Yeah.
So, that's my. Where did you see it? Were you in the theater there when you were 10 years old, 10, 11, 12 years old?
Yeah, no, I saw it. I probably saw it mid-90s, just probably rented it because I was in a a Tom Cruise phase. I'm a big Tom Cruise fan. I know a lot about, his private life is his private life, and I tend to separate those two. But I love, Tom Cruise, but I also love Paul Newman. Just getting, I'll go into these phases where I'll watch a couple of his movies here and there. I always loved him. And I think it was, probably mid-90s VHS, rented it. And I don't think, like you were saying, I don't think at the time it hit me. It wasn't until I was older that I realized a lot of what the movie's trying to talk about and convey. And when I realized that, that's when it really hit me. And that's when it really kind of went off on this whole thing about manipulation and maybe trying to live old glory years and those kinds of themes that kind of run in Scorsese films in general. But I can see why he was drawn to this character, because it's just, I think I was kind of raised by people kind of in this atmosphere or in this kind of orbit, of kind of wasted potential or not realizing your full potential. And so that was the part of the movie that really hit me. And I really wanted to, that's why I really wanted to do this movie this week, was just to talk about it, because I just love this movie. And this was kind of like, I feel like this was kind of Tom Cruise's beginning. He had done Risky Business. He had done a little bit parts in Taps and The Outsiders. And he kind of front loaded his career like this. He worked with a lot of great directors in the 80s and 90s. I think for me, the jumping off point was kind of Mission Impossible 3. That's when he kind of went, all right, I'm just doing action. He did some movies here and there. He did, what is it, Lion for Lambs or something like that movie in 07 or 08. He did Valkyrie. He did those kind of movies. But I was I was watching this podcast with it's that comedian, that Italian comedian guy that, I forget his name. Old man brain. But he has was it? Yeah, that's
Mancuso? Yeah.
Yeah, and he has it with his buddy, and they interviewed the guy from New Girl. Jeez, old man brain. I have it. Anyways, they interviewed this actor that worked with Tom Cruise on The Mummy, and he was saying that he doesn't do those films because it doesn't do well overseas, which was kind of disappointing, because I just always thought, oh man, Tom Cruise, when he was doing stuff like this is what I love about him. I know he could do the action stuff, but but anyways, I could just go on and on and on and on. Before we do go on and on and on, though, let's do some deets.
We got some tales here. Yeah, we got some tales. All right. So the basic synopsis, just real quick, is a pool hustler, Fast Eddie Felson, finds a young, promising pool player, Vincent, in a local bar, sees him as a younger version of himself. To try and make it as in the old days, Eddie offers to teach Vincent how to be a hustler. After some hesitations, Vincent accepts, and Eddie takes him and Vincent's girlfriend, Carmen, on a tour through the country to work the pool halls. However, Vincent's tendency to show off his talent, and by doing so, warning off the players and losing money, soon leads to a confrontation with Eddie. So there's your synopsis there. Color and Money came out in 1986. It was written by Walter Tevis. The book was written by Walter Tevis, and the screenplay was written by Richard Price. It's based on the book by Walter Tevis. Directed by Martin Scorsese. It stars Paul Newman as Fast Eddie, Tom Cruise as Vincent, Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio as Carmen, Helen Shaver as Janelle, John Turturro as Julian, Bill Cobbs as Orvis, and Forrest Whitaker as Leon. And this might be for one of Forrest Whitaker's first. It was almost like an introducing Forrest Whitaker. He's
I thought his name was down on the. Isn't it Amos?
What did I say? No. I said Leon. Is it Amos?
Oh no, maybe it's not. Hold on. Anyways, go ahead. It's not a biggie.
Yeah, sorry.
We'll correct it post.
It's rated R. It runs an hour 59 minutes. 7.0 on IMDb. 87% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's certified fresh. The audience has it at 73%. Filmed primarily in Chicago, and of course, the tournament takes place in Atlantic City. So those are your two very, very small. It says they travel around the country. They filmed pretty much all the pool hall scenes in and around the Chicago area.
Chicago, yeah.
Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah, it's a great town. I don't know if you spend any time in Chicago, but I recommend it. There are real pool. I mean, all of the pools have, like you mentioned, and same within The Hustler. Paul Newman does all his own pool shots in The Hustler. Jackie Gleason, who was known to be an excellent straight pool player. In that movie, they play what's called straight pool, which is you just trying to hit as many balls in as you can. Doesn't matter if your stripes or solids. We kind of grew up playing the 15 ball rack, and whoever makes one and gets to choose if they want to be stripes or solid, and then you finish with the 8 ball. The Hustler is based on a straight pool, which is just trying to hit as many balls in as you can, and then you have those beads that are on the racks above you. This movie is about 9 ball. So it's a little different, and Fast Eddie has some opinions on how he feels about 9 ball in comparison to straight pool. But they had real pool champions that played as extras in this movie. Probably the most notable one is the gentleman who plays Grady. Grady Seasons is actually Keith Earthquake McCready, who was very famous at the time. And in 1986, there was after The Hustler, pool became a very, very popular. And by 86, you start to have, like you said, maybe we're in these pool halls, which were real kind of smoky, and, people that are maybe they're just in there to hustle other people. It wasn't, it was kind of seen as, kind of you're just day drinking and chain smoking, and it's people dangerous oftentimes. But this movie really helped bring the pool halls back. And so we saw a lot of that, especially in the 90s. God, we played pool all the time. There were pool halls everywhere. And there's still some here in Petaluma. Buffalo Billiards has still stood the test of time right there on the boulevard. There's also a pool hall up in Katati that has gone through a couple of, I forget what it was called in the 90s at the time. It was packed, man. You had to go in there and you might have to wait an hour or two. And there's 65, 70 tables in this big giant room, and you're waiting. And you're just waiting. You and your buddies just want to buy a couple of pitchers of beer and pay by the hour. But yeah, this really brought pool back. So when you see these actors and you see a lot of these shots that are taking place in this movie, and especially the way that Scorsese films it, you can see that they are actually hitting these shots. So Tom Cruise, who's known to do all his own stunts now, really had to learn how to play doing these trick shots, the one-handed shots that you see and all that. It's all them doing it. Hats off to the actors who had to learn how to be and pretend to be bad, and sometimes, right? They're
right.
As the hustle goes. So those are the tales that I tell so well, and there you have it. I didn't look up how much it made and everything, but I think since 1986, it's almost 40 years ago. I think that the pool hall owners have a lot to thank about this, because there's not a lot of pool movies.
Well, I think everybody goes through their pool phase. I mean, I definitely did. I remember having morning classes at the JC, and sometimes I would cut the class and just go play pool from like 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. to like, noon or something. And on Santa Rosa, on Mendocino there, now it's a bike shop. They sell bikes out of there. But it used to be a pool hall. A really good one, like the ones they show.
It.
Yeah, and the bus station and all that had a little bar in there and stuff. And so, yeah, that was definitely the hangout spot on a Friday or Saturday night if you just wanted to take, your buddies out and have a good time.
Or it's a good date night, too. It can be a fun date night.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
Took many dates there.
Absolutely.
Broke ass Steve. Yeah. Anyway.
I mean, right. It's not that expensive, right? What, $10 for a couple hours? I mean, it's, and you got beer and wings. What's not to love?
Right. And so, so anyway, let's get into this movie, man. This is a great movie. Like you had said, I'm just going to go through some little bits of
Do it.
and follow along if you'd like. The plot, which is a former pool player, Fast Eddie Felson, has given up the game and is now a successful liquor salesman in Chicago. However, he partners with pool players, including a hustler named Julian, who is outmatched at 9-ball by the young and charismatic Vincent. Now, this is kind of, for me, this from the get-go, this movie, especially the first half hour maybe, manipulation, just the con is on. And you hear the opening after the directed by Martin Scorsese and the movie starts, you hear Paul Newman's voice before you hear anything else. And he's trying to sell his bartender at this bar that I guess he owns or manages. And he's selling this bourbon to his barkeep and telling her all about how, this is so good and it's made in the same kind of barrels that the other ones are, the good bourbon is. And, you don't even need iodine. It's really cool. And you could slap some, wild turkey labels on it. Nobody would tell the difference. And so he's trying to kind of manipulate, whatever you want to say with his girlfriend / bar hop.
Right.
And this kind of shoots off this movie. This is the theme, of this that runs throughout this movie, this is Eddie Felson. He is in The Hustler. He was pushed out of the whole Hustler game in New York. It takes place I think in New York. Mm-hmm. And back then the mob had a big hand in hustling.
Right.
And they told him, hey man, you can't do this anymore around here. So we pick him up 25 years later, and now what's he doing? He's selling liquor. And you know what? He's the best. And he makes a lot of money doing it. And he's just the man to this is what his life has become. He's not where he wants to be, but he's taking this thing and he's saying, I'm going to be the best at it. And this is where kind of a lot of introductions come in. You get Julian, which is he's stake or he has his like foot in and still into the pool area. He has a couple of pool tables in there. But I think this is where it shows kind of the dynamic of Julian, which is played by John Turturro.
Right.
And Newman. And you see the kind of dynamic in their relationship. And so what happens when he hears Tom Cruise's Thunderball break? The camera pans to him and he goes, that kid's got a sledgehammer break. Mm-hmm. Then it kind of stirs something in him. Just the acting and the writing in this opening scene, to me, draws me in. It's so compelling. I'm a big fan of show me, don't tell me kind of writing. And this kind of writing is actually... it makes it look so obvious, but if you have any less actors, I think, it doesn't work. And a lot of people I've heard criticize Tom Cruise as being too over the top and too obnoxious, but I think it's needed. I think it's needed because I think you need to show the naivety. You need to show the obnoxiousness of youth, and when you're young, there's nobody that's going to tell you what to do or how to do it. You're going to just bulldoze your way through shit sometimes. What did you think about this opening scene, Toby?
Well, your takeaways were similar to mine in that he's selling bootleg bourbon and they're both trying it. They're both, tasting their wares. And Julian's getting his butt whipped over here by the guy. And when Fast Eddie turns to look at Julian's got a little bit of a substance abuse problem, which Eddie's not stoked about, but that's his horse, and he's staking it. So he's like, I need another 20. I need another 20. He keeps coming over and getting more money from him. He's like, what the hell? He's all, yeah, this guy. He's like, I got this guy. And they look over, and he's playing video games. He's over there playing this one, I forget what it was. Tom Cruise is playing a video game. So he's like, he's got all the energy in the world. He's got all the confidence in the world. Vincent does. And Eddie is just like you said. And you see the way that Scorsese shows us that Eddie's got, wait a minute, I might want to get back into the steak horsing thing for real. Julian's a mess, but the way that his head turns to look at Vincent and kind of like he comes closer to the screen and then further away. It's just so well shot that you get it. Like he's just all, what? He's hearing this jackhammer break, right? Like you said. And now he's like, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this was shot too by Michael Bauhaus.
Okay.
Who did a lot of Scorsese movies. He did Goodfellas. He did Last Temptation. And this movie, like you said earlier, this movie is a lot in the pool halls where it's dark, it's smoky, not a lot of sunlight. And even in the sunlight, when there is sunlight, it's still gritty. You feel the coldness. They're in the snow, you know. You feel that coldness through the screen. And I think that plays a lot into this of like, who is this guy? Who is this character? And when he moves to kind of get a closer look to what Tom Cruise is doing, I mean, the idea, and you texted me this scene, and you were watching it. It's like, you know, when Tom Cruise is basically just wiping the floor with this Julian character, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's just saying, let's just play. And the look, no money, man. And the look from Newman to Tom Cruise is that one of like, is this guy for real?
He's like, shit. This guy just wants to play, dude.
And
right?
Like for us, I think for any normal person we'd be like, oh yeah, cool, man. Yeah, all right. But because it's such, I don't want to say corrupted, but it's such a, you know, in this kind of arena of hustle and go, get what you can, manipulate whatever you need to do, but get that money. This is unheard of for Paul Newman or for Fast Eddie Felsen. And when he hears that, he immediately he knows it's either for real and this dude's a chump, or he's a hustler and he knows what he's doing. And it's not what is it? It's the former. You know, he's kind of a chump. Because he doesn't realize, especially after he talks to his girlfriend, Carmen, played by Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio.
Yes.
And after a brief exchange with her, he realizes, oh, they don't know what they're doing.
They don't know what they're doing. And he's got dollar signs, dude. He's like, this guy, okay, I might quit the booze business and stay course. I mean, this guy's got a meal ticket. I want 60%.
Well, he's like, he wants to know, like, what's the deal?
Right.
And so he says, you know, he's just, how about I take you two out for dinner? And she's like, well, better ask Vincent. Nope, you better ask Vincent. Right. And this was the thing. This is kind of where I think the manipulation from Fast Eddie starts. And I mean, the dinner scene, this is one of my favorite scenes in cinema. I mean, this is just a masterclass on how, of showing how somebody manipulates somebody else to get them to do what they want. And this is a theme throughout this movie, because this is what Newman does throughout this movie. With the surprise is that the girlfriend kind of goes along with it. But that scene, for me, the dinner scene, when he's saying, man, you are a natural character. You hear that? I've been trying to tell her I've got no, kid. You are a natural character. You're an incredible flake. But that's a gift. He's immediately breaking him down.
Yes.
And then building him back up. I love it. I mean, the scene is like, gosh,
the first 30 minutes. Right. The first, like, that's what you said. The first 30 minutes of this movie are a masterclass on how to manipulate two people. And they don't realize that you're going to be working for me, but I don't really give that much of a shit about you guys. I can make a fortune off you guys. And
Carmen picks up on it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And he knows she's the tough one here. She's kind of the manager, but she doesn't know what she's doing. And I'm going to teach you guys some lessons. You're absolutely right. The dinner scene for me is the way that it's shot, the over-the-shoulder shots that you see in the conversation between them. Scorsese does this so well, and Tarantino does this. I'm assuming he probably got this kind of technique. I don't know if this is taught in film school or you just figure it out. But you have to watch the dinner scene in that. Yeah. Each time that they're talking to one another, you see Tom Cruise is in the foreground, and he's in the right-hand corner, but he's out of focus. He's blurry. And Paul Newman's across the table and he's in focus. He's in the focus, but he's back in the background. And he's talking. And what he's saying is trying to focus Tom. And then it goes back over to the other shoulder. And then every time it goes back, you see more and more of Tom Cruise's character, which each one, but by the end of the scene, Tom Cruise is literally half the screen, but it's the back of his head and he's out of focus. And Paul, it's almost like you have to look around. It's very claustrophobic feeling, which all these scenes are in these pool halls. It's very kind of claustrophobic.
Yeah.
You watch the movie with like hunched shoulders a little bit because you're just like, and you know he's getting worked, right? He's playing them. And just I was like, why is he putting more and more of Vincent in the screen? And I thought, if this is the looming young kid that is going to, and when you get to the end of the movie, it makes even more sense where you're like, he's coming for the old man. Yeah. And that's why every time they cut back and forth, it's a little bit more and a little bit more. And it's so subtle the way he shot this. I just love it so much. I watched it over and over and over again. And I was like, I'm not even listening to what they're talking about. I was just watching. At one point I was like, shit, I got to put the subtitles up because I'm not paying any attention to what they're saying. I'm just watching. I was like holding my breath.
Well, I think
absolutely amazing filmmaking.
Yeah. I mean, and I suggest anybody watch the scene.
Yes.
To kind of get, again, show me, don't tell me, kind of the subtlety or the undercurrent of what they're trying to say. Because in the next scene, if for those who haven't seen it, I suggest you watch it, but he knows these two people at the bar, right? But Tom Cruise and his girlfriend don't know that. So he plays off the guy leaves. I'm going to go pick up that girl within 2 minutes. And he goes over, but he knows the girl. They don't know that. But the next day, Carmen comes in and says, what were you talking about? Rich can be arranged. Because that's what the whole dinner meeting was about, was he wants to tell them, he says that if you're good at anything, the best, then Rich can be arranged. Rich can come fairly easy. And this kind of captures Carmen's kind of attention. And again, Carmen is the fast one in this couple. She's the one that kind of picks up on us. She's a lot more street smart than Vincent is.
Very savvy.
And the next day she comes to him and says, what were you talking about that? So they go and they sit in his Cadillac.
Yes.
And the whole dialogue that they have is it's just, he says to her, I invest. What do I invest in? And she looks around and she says, excellence. And so just from that answer, he knows, okay, like this, you got some brains. What does Vincent see in you? Because he has to know, like, how did they get together? How do they stay together here? And she goes, well, I was, what was it? I met Vincent at the police station. My boyfriend was caught robbing his mom's house. And he says, look at this. Look at this. It's a necklace, right? And he shows him and she's like, Vincent looks at it and says his mom has one just like it at home, and Vincent, so he goes, what do you see in him? And she's like, Vincent's the best. That's what he sees in me. And so I think he realizes that she's, okay, I can help. Are you going to help me with him? Which he says later in the movie. But he understands that, okay, I can do this because she's going to learn. And I think that kind of cements the partnership. Now the only thing is that he has to sell it to Vincent, which is Tom Cruise. And that's, I feel like that's just another great scene. Just one on top of the other.
The Cadillac scene is very similar to the dinner scene in that at the beginning of the dinner scene, you see all three of them. And then as the conversation gets started, it's just Eddie and Vincent, and Carmen's not in any of the shots. It's just the two of them, back this way, this way, this way. And then when it's just Carmen and Eddie in the car, it's also done with these over-the-shoulder shots, but it's being shot from outside the car. and you can see the trees on the shadow on the driver's side window, and you can and so they're talking, and Carmen's giving Eddie way too much information. He's like, she's a con, I can work with that. She's had trouble with the law, I can work with that. I know that these are people that probably aren't going to do anything to go back to jail, perhaps. So I mean, she just tells him too much information about herself. But
Well,
I
I
thought the
just see it
car.
as, yeah. Well, I just see
I
it as
thought
like she's street smart. That's how I see
yes.
it. I see it as like she's just street smart, and he recognizes that.
But
Continue, sorry, I
street
didn't.
smart means you don't want any trouble with the law. You're going to avoid the police at every
Yeah,
encounter. And I don't even think there are police in this movie at all. So we're not
no,
really not worried about the police. But the way it was shot from outside the car, what that told me was he's still manipulating her, but it's a little tougher. It's a harder shell. The shell being shot from out, it's like it's going to be a tougher sell with Carmen. He doesn't have his all figured out with Carmen. So
yeah,
I just thought, and maybe I was overthinking it, but I was like, why didn't he shoot it with cameras inside the car so that we're not viewing it from outside in? I just saw the car as sort of the barrier that he's got to break
yeah.
between the two of them.
Huh. That's interesting. Yeah, and so I think so. The next scene is basically, he has to get Vincent on board.
Yeah,
And
he's
where
got to
does
get
he
Vincent
find
on board.
Vincent? He works at a place called Child World, selling newborn children toys
Yeah,
and
right.
accessories, which is very symbolic of this whole thing of Vincent is a child, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he
Oh yeah,
has to be kind of born into this. He wants to take Vincent into this world where he needs to learn. He needs to learn how to hustle. He needs to learn to exploit his talent. Eddie says in this movie, money won is twice as sweet as money earned.
yes,
So he has to. That's his mantra in trying to get Vincent onto this road, which he says, in the back stock room. Where he says, 6 weeks, get on the road, get some seasoning, put together some stuff.
right.
He sees the potential here of thousands of dollars, thousands upon thousands of dollars that this guy could do. Vincent has no idea that this is on the radar. Vincent has no idea that he can do this. He just, he's like, this is my job, Eddie, and Eddie's like, really? Take a look around. So then
Right.
he has to go to his, look at Carmen, and he's like, well, what? He's like, take a look, kid. She's starting to, you know, she doesn't get the allure of this place.
Right.
So it's working on Carmen now because he knows whatever he does, Carmen's going to back him up. So it's just another manipulation after minute. Now, watching this, you were kind of thinking, Newman's, Fast Eddie's not the best person. He's kind of the anti-hero in this story, I think. But in the story of, if Tom Cruise and Carmen were just to hit, the small time hustles, maybe they make 150 a night,
Right.
$100 a night,
Yeah.
and they're
Not
happy.
much.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they don't, and so he's opening up this world to him, and it's not child world. You need to be born into this world of thousands, which I don't know. It's just another great scene, great scene. It's just stacked on top of each other. So after that, they get on the road. They talk him into it. He gives them a balabushka,
A balabushka.
which is the thing of trying to get him to expand his bubble.
It's a
Look at it.
huge
Look at
gift.
here. Play with this.
Right. It's a
Your
huge
thoughts
gift.
on that?
It goes back to Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. If you could, I mean, this is the thing. He's like, once I give him this stick, he's mine. I have him forever. This kid,
Even Vincent
he's
says,
got all the confidence in the world, and he's dumb. This is how Eddie sees him. He's got all the confidence in the world, and he's stupid, but he's got a really, really smart girlfriend who I'm very much attracted to. And that could be, he's got to stay disciplined among himself, right? He's been hustled before. In The Hustler, he was hustled by an older steak horse, and this time he's the old man who is but he learned his lesson 25 years ago. But did he? Because now he's hustling bootleg booze, and he's like, I'm like you said, I'm not where I want to be. Things didn't work out. I've got all the talent in the world, but I self-destruct. And that's Vincent he's like, if I can somehow harness this guy's energy and funnel it into the flux capacitor, I can I'll be rich beyond my wildest dreams. And all I got to do is just sit back and watch pool. That's all I got to do. But I got to teach.
And if it was only that easy,
Yeah. Control. You must learn control.
Yeah.
So he gives him the babushka, and then Vincent immediately goes out and starts showing everybody his shiny new toy, right? And he's just all, he gives him the babushka, and then as soon as he has Vincent, he does this thing where all of a sudden he goes, I got to make a couple phone calls. And now Vincent, now that he's got him, Vincent's like, and now he's this kind of stuttering, mumbling, he's like, well, thank you. And he's like, yeah, hang on. And now he's not that important anymore. He immediately changes the dynamic. Now he's in charge. And he's just like, all right, you're welcome, kid. Yeah, go out and play with your toys. And he kind of just dismisses him. And he makes a fake phone call because as soon as, you see Vince running around the pool hall. Oh my God, babushka! It's about, you know what that thing's worth? Oh my God, didn't that guy die like 15 years ago? And like everybody.
Well, he says to Paul Newman, he says, you're pushing pretty hard, which he knows, he's realizing too. Tom Cruise is starting to realize, dude, can we really do this? And I think, the babushka thing, and then telling Carmen, hey, go across the street and buy some cigarettes.
Yeah, he gets her out of there. He's like, don't let him show you this stick. And like, this is good for him.
No,
this is lesson number 2.
It's what he was saying about his girlfriend at Child World, which was, you're losing her, kid, and she doesn't get the allure of this place. And so he makes it so it seems like, because he's like, hey, where'd you go? Well, I went across the street, bought some cigs. Well, they sell cigs here. Yeah. Well, I just felt like going out. And he's getting this insecurity in him of like, well, maybe he's right. And so when he goes back and tells Eddie, he's like, yeah, I was, that's when what you're talking about. He's on the phone. Yeah, hold on a second. He's like, I was checking her out, feeling her up, she's doing real good. He's like, oh, okay, I'm glad I'm wrong. And, he's just realizing that after the whole buying cigs thing, he goes up to Eddie and says, all right, let's do it. And
he does one break and sinks the one ball on the break, and he's like, I'm in. Whatever we're doing, whatever you're selling, I'm buying. And they're now both he and Carmen are working Vincent. They're both
right.
And it's kind of sad to watch. You're just like, oh, it's Tom Cruise. He's in the height of his powers. It's the mid 80s. He's got the big pompadour hairdo, and he's kind of a Guido kind of character with his name on his shirt, and and he's just you're almost kind of like the way that Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio plays the Carmen character is masterful. She is an absolute pro in this. I love her for everything else she's been in. Obviously, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and The Abyss, and the list goes on and on. She is glorious in this character, and like very kind of unlikable.
Well, I think
she's the kind of managing him. They're both managing him.
Well, I think that she's kind of looking out for him. She's still, no matter, the manipulation is on, but she's trying to get out as much as for him as for her too. They're the team. She's still the manager, or in her eyes, she's learning from Eddie. This is an enterprise. She's learning how to do this. And she's learning from Eddie, listening to Eddie. Well, Tom Cruise doesn't know what's going on. He just thinks, oh, this guy wants to take me and I have to win a bunch of pool games. And it's not even about that. But he doesn't get it. And that's
monkey, right?
Yeah, and I think that's what Eddie Felson is counting on. Yeah, is that I'm going to teach you. Here's some hustles, and like they said when they're leaving on the road, he's like, "Don't worry, I'm not going to lose often." And he's like, "Oh no, yes you will. You're going to lose a lot, but sometimes when you win, you lose." And that was the first kind of thing. So
I think he said sometimes when you lose, you win.
No, that's what it is. That's what it
He
is.
says sometimes when you lose, and Vince is like, "What the hell?
What does
What
that
on
mean?
God's flat earth are you talking about?" Right? It
Well,
doesn't
because
even
he
make any
he
sense
just
to
he,
him.
he just thinks it's a teacher trying to tell him how to
Right.
play pool, and he tells him, "I already know how to play pool, man." So yeah,
So as Vince is walking around, I just got to also mention the way that Scorsese uses his soundtrack is everything is calculated, and to the point of in the part of the song where the lyrics are being sung are a direct connection with what's happening in the scene. As Vincent's running around going, "I got a Balbushka, Balbushka," on the jukebox, "Who Owns This Place" by Don Henley is playing, and the lyrics are "Snakes in the garden, apples on the tree," and it's Eddie standing there, and he's just, if he could be salivating, he would be. He's like, he's the snake in the garden, and Vincent is the apple on the tree. I'm like, dude, Scorsese's the best, dude.
yeah,
Are you
dude.
kidding me?
Yeah. I mean, so okay, so then Vincent and Carmen hit the road with Eddie in his Cadillac, visiting a series of pool halls, with Eddie taking most of any winnings and absorbing losses. Eddie attempts to teach him the art of hustling, but Vincent balks at having to play below his ability. At a pool hall run by his old acquaintance, Orvis, Eddie becomes fed up with Vincent's arrogance and leaves him. So that first thing, that first pool hall was at
Chalkies.
Chalkies? Yeah.
Chalkies.
Yeah, and Orvis is the first one to kind of remember Fast Eddie Felson, and
Yeah.
he's like Fast Eddie Felson.
Table
And
7.
again, the pool hall, they get there about 3 o'clock. What was it? I think it was 10 after 3 in the afternoon,
Yeah.
and it's like it's just in a bad part of town. And
Yeah.
again, the way that the outside the city streets of Chicago is filmed, it's like a ghost town. It is like the stores are boarded up, it looks like, and they're old and they've been there forever. And it's just this grittiness again that you feel. This is where kind of this is the first kind of confrontation between Eddie and Vincent. And Eddie's trying to tell him, look, don't be a showboat. There's a guy over there. He's got about 5,000, 6,000 in his pocket. He doesn't mind losing. He just doesn't want to give it away.
Right.
So it's something to kind of, okay, you pick that up, but now not Vincent. Vincent is
No.
like,
He can't help
this is
himself.
how I play,
Right.
Again, so then that night when they have Vincent's showboating and Eddie leaves him there, just leaves him behind. He's like, fuck this guy.
Right,
Gets
because
back to the
the whale
hotel.
that they were gonna end up hustling is just like, boy, that boy is hot, and
Yeah.
he goes over and Orvis is standing by and Orvis knows that Eddie is like, your kid's out of control, dude. Like that
Yeah.
was the last thing he wanted to do is come in here. First of all, he told him to leave the Balbushka in the car, and he's like, what?
Yeah.
He's all, you walk in here with this thing, and nobody will come near you with a nickel. And he's just like, okay, I mean, that's a good lesson. Don't walk in here with a $50,000 cue stick, dude. Right?
Yeah.
Everyone's going to know what that thing is, dude. And we'll talk about Balbushkas in a minute because I had to know. I'm like, what is, tell me about the Bal. But before they walk into Chalkies, they get out of the car and they look at it. And there's winos sitting front drinking out of bags, right? And and then Paul Newman says, "This used to be a nice, average, bad neighborhood. Now look at it." I love that line.
Well, that's the thing. And then after he realizes that Vincent had come back to the hotel, grabbed the Balabushka, went back to play with it.
Yeah.
That's when the scene you're talking about, where we see him showboating to Werewolves of London. But then that precedes.
He's all, I made money. He's all, you lost money.
So that precedes another great scene in the Cadillac, which is, tell me what you want to do. This is Fast Eddie Felson talking to Vincent. Right. Tell me what you want to do, because you're listening. He goes, you're listening, but you don't hear. Yeah. And proceeds to tell him his kind of, not really in detail, but like kind of, hey, 25 years ago, I got the screws put on me. It was over before it really got going. And he goes, I see you and I'm jumping again, and so he's trying to tell Vincent about hustling. He's trying to tell him that he's got a fucking racehorse, a stallion.
Yes.
And Vincent, you can see it kind of sinking in, but he's still not getting it. He's still just, I'm a pool player. Like he says, I'm a fucking pool player. I play pool. That's all Vincent knows. And that's all he's willing to stick to. And so the next day after that, they go to breakfast and he's still not. Newman is like, hey, look, I'll tell it again this way. If you didn't hear me last time, this is I'll tell you again. You would have done that anywhere else, Atlantic City would all be gone, because the players, but it's chalkies and the players don't leave the streets. So he's trying the first kind of hustle, which is Two Brothers and a Stranger.
Yes.
And it goes so well, man. And they got that guy, Ron Dean, I think his name is. Any Chicago movie with John Hughes, The Batman Begins, this dude that's sitting next to him is Ron Dean, and he plays Emilio Estevez's dad in The Breakfast Club. He was in Batman, The Dark Knight, and this guy. So, anyways, two brothers and a stranger. They pull off this hustle. But what happens, man? What happens?
So what happens is Vincent is a bit of a jealous hothead, and gets pissed at Eddie and also at Carmen to a lesser extent. But what he's not getting, they're trying to rattle him, which they do, but they're also trying to get this game from $20 a game or $50 a game to some actual money. Let's actually make some money. And so he's like, he's all, put your teeth back in and take your hands off the girl. And he's all, I'll put my teeth back in when you pull your diapers up or something. They get into this, Eddie and Vincent, and the whole bar room's just all, oh, damn. And the high roller, who's apparently Eddie, who's in there, and he's got the young, hot girlfriend, who's Carmen. Nobody knows that this. They're all being hustled. The three of them are all in on it. And
big money game.
The Bart, he's like, how much? The guy, he's like, hey, we're trying to play for money over here. The guy who Eddie's or Vincent's playing, and he's just, so how much you playing for? $50 a game. He's all, how about 500? And the bartender's all, how about 1,000?
You want to make it 1,000?
You want to make it 1,000? And Eddie's like, see, this is what I hope you kids are listening, because this is how it works. And next thing you know, they're all laughing and joking, but they go out and they see Vincent, who they're all parked around the corner, and Vincent's fucking furious. You had your hands all over, blah, blah, this is a bullshit and all this. And they both all, it's an act. Don't you get it? It's just, we're acting. Hustle. And he's like, kind of a kind of moment where like the kid, he's a little slow, but he's getting it, right?
All right. So after that, he and Carmen struggle to rein in Vincent's showboating. But after a string of successful games, Vincent plays the famed Grady Seasons.
Yes.
And this is and Eddie's telling him to dump. He's gonna dump. But the camera work that you were talking about earlier, over his shoulder, starts out on Eddie's left, right? Yes. And there's a rule in filmmaking that says you can't, once you establish a line, you can't cross that line.
Right.
So if it's over the left, if it's over the, or right shoulder, I should say, excuse me, then you have to play on that line, right? On the right side. His left, your right. But he does a really cool thing here when he says, that's Grady Seasons. And you want me to play him? Yes. And you're going to lose.
And
he crosses that line to this side. So now he does that because he has Carmen on this side too. So now he's playing, now he can go back and forth between Vincent and Carmen. That's a great use of camera work right there. But it's also highlights kind of the idea that like,
perspective, right?
Right. And when he says, you want me to dump? And he says, why can't we have a hustle where I win? And Carmen says, because if you play him and you lose, the odds between you or in Atlantic City, the odds between you will skyrocket. And he says, see, she learns because she's picking it up, man. But he doesn't get it still. Right. So he proceeds to play him, and they play, and that's when I think Fast Eddie gets that yearning back. He sees these two great guys, Vincent and Grady Seasons, and Vincent decides that he's going to play him. He's going to lose, but he's going to lose his way. And and Carmen has to rein him back in at the end there. But
oh yes, she does. She's like, if you win one more game, you're going to be humping your fist for a long time. And then she turns and walks away, and it's like, got it.
But that's where that's just a turn in the story, because that's when Eddie, he goes out and he gets hustled by
He does.
Amos. Yeah, the Forrest Whitaker.
Yes.
And with Vincent and Carmen watching.
Well,
and I've seen a lot of doing the deep dive on this. Yeah, doing the deep dive on this.
Kicking ass, and Amos had been waiting in the wings the whole time, and he's talking about, dude, he's playing and telling him how he was used as experiments for, like, dude, oh my god, the stuff that Forrest Whitaker's character is saying is horrifying. He's all, yeah, I was a subject, and he's all, a subject? What's a subject? He goes, electroshock, and you're just all, oh my god, dude, so brutal. Which, by the way, not unheard of, especially for black men at the time. Like, he was being, like, you to have the Tuskegee Airmen, and the list goes on and on. We have a rich history of this, but that's how he was making money. I'm a test subject. I'll eat the poison and see if it kills me, kind of thing. I mean, brutal, right? Just terrible, terrible stuff. Right. And he's getting hustled, and Eddie gets hustled and doesn't even see it coming.
And well, when he does finally see it coming, he's like, bullshit, do it again. And when he finally confronts him, he's like, are you a hustler, Amos? He said, what? You want to quit? You don't have to pay me.
You don't have to pay me.
Fuck you, pal. Do it again. Doubles 200, puts 400 down at the last one. And
now he just wants to beat him. He's like, am I good enough to actually beat this guy?
Right.
Or am I?
And, this is 9-ball too. Right. This is 9-ball. And it's not new to Eddie, but it's new. The whole culture is new to him.
Yes. Right.
He shot straight pool. He says this is like cribbage or handball.
Yeah, it's for bangers. Yeah, it's cribbage and handball, right? Schoolyard stuff.
So when he's done, he's a little tipsy, but he tells Vincent, he cuts him loose. He's like, he tells him, I've shown you everything. I showed you my ass in here. I have nothing left to teach you. And they're just like, well, what are we supposed to do? Well, I don't know. Here's Atlantic City. In between's about 27 pool halls. Do the math. Right. And, Carmen's just like, well, why are you talking to us this way, Eddie? Gives him the money. And they have this confrontation, which I love. Again, another great scene.
That hallway, stairway conversation. It's so good. Yes.
He's like, if you're going to give me money, he's like, this is nickel and dime shit. I'll give you money, but don't you tell me what I'm about. And it's basically a breakup. Basically, they cut loose of Eddie. Vincent and Carmen cut loose of Eddie. Eddie just takes off. And then we get this montage.
Gives him the balbushka back. Yeah. Breaks the handrail, which I have to assume was just Tom Cruise. Yeah. I mean, we got one take. You got to put that. I mean, it's shocking. Like, they are acting their asses off.
Right.
It feels very, very real. And you're like, again, it's in a hallway, very claustrophobic feeling, and it's uncomfortable for the audience. Right. They're all going through it. The Eddie's just like he said, I showed you my ass and I got nothing left to teach you, kid. All this kind of go on. And Carmen takes the money. She's like, all right. She'll take she comes back and takes the money, and then Eddie, here's your character study, where Eddie's now has kind of a come to Jesus moment. He goes and takes the balbushka and starts. They got that montage of him. He's training, dude. He's like, damn it, I'm a pool player too.
Well, he quits drinking, so you see him drinking soda and coffee.
Yep. Coffee.
He gets his eyesight checked out. So you see him take care of his body. He's swimming.
Yep.
He's reading the newspaper, but he's playing all day long. He's putting in the hours. You see him lose to Roselle, which was the guy that Tom Cruise beat so flamboyantly.
Yep.
You see him get beat by him, but then he goes and plays some more. He comes back, plays Roselle again, beats Roselle. So this was kind of this is kind of the turning point for Eddie, which is the turning point in the movie, because I think now he becomes kind of the I'm gonna go and play
I'm
in
gonna go win
Atlantic
this.
City.
I'm gonna go win this freaking tournament.
Right.
When he beats Moselle, he hustles all those kind of schlubs, and I think Iggy Pop's in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Or maybe he was earlier, but Iggy
It
Pop
was
makes
earlier.
an appearance in this. Super skinny with the T-shirt, I think. Um, but he when Moselle gives him the money and Orvis is standing there, Eddie takes the money and he's all, "So you boys going to Atlantic City?" He's like, "Dude, now we're on, dude. It's tournament time." And he comes
So
walking in his 3-piece suit and he checks into the
yeah.
hotel and here we go.
So the last part of the movie,
Yeah,
Eddie enters the Atlantic City tournament and plays a couple people, and he ends up having to play Vincent in this, I think, second round or third round. And they have a game. They're going back and forth. They're each shooting. They're each making these insane shots. It's a nail biter. Goes down to the wire. Eddie ends up winning and is just so relieved because it takes the monkey off his back.
yeah.
It's kind of like the teacher kind of he establishes that he's kind of the best and he's back.
He's good. Yes.
Yeah, and he's celebrating with his girlfriend and his girlfriend shows up, so they're celebrating in the hotel room. And Vincent shows up and bashes all of that and says,
Oh, dude.
$8,000. Here's $8,000. What's this for? I dumped. He goes, once I beat Grady Seasons, the odds between me and you went through the roof. He goes, I got $4,000 to lay off, and I dumped. And so
here's your 60%.
Yeah, and
your cut. And his girlfriend Janelle is like, she knows that this was fucked up. She knows that was, and once again, Eddie, the hustler, gets hustled.
Right.
And he didn't see it coming. We did two brothers and a stranger. It worked.
Just like, yeah.
When I missed that five, I knew it was going to be the 5-ball. When I saw the lay on the table, I knew it just the whole crowd. Oh God, it was so beautiful. And you're just like watching this all, no.
Yeah. So Eddie has another moment where he's like, he forfeits his next match. He forfeits potentially $50,000, and gives back the money to Vincent, and then through Carmen says, all I want is his best game.
Right.
And so the finale is
I'll meet me in the green room. I'll be in the green room if he wants to come give the money back. And take the money. No, give it to charity, whatever. And he's just all, I'll be in the green room.
Yeah. And this is where Vincent finally gets to say, you used us. You used me. And he says, you're right. But now you're playing with the big boys. You're not over there playing with child toys anymore. He's like, you're not playing with baby
dolls.
Yeah. And he goes, all that other stuff, though, I'm not too proud of that. But I want to play you. I want you to, I want your best game. And so I think, it kind of ends kind of open-ended. He just breaks. He says, I'm back. And then Werewolves of London starts playing, which is a fucking great ending. And I think that's this, again, one of my favorite movies. I think it's kind of one of Scorsese's underrated, underappreciated movies. I think after Goodfellas, I wasn't a really big fan of Gangs in New York. I wasn't a big fan of, what was that one that he did with the first, who was that guy that he was a pilot? He was a multimillionaire. I forget that movie, but
Howard Hughes.
Yeah, Howard Hughes. I wasn't a big fan of that movie, so I think this is kind of where Scorsese, I think, was in his prime. I think it was kind of the peak of his powers. I'm not a big fan of his. I mean, I didn't watch that Desert Moon one that came out a year or two ago. I just feel like, I think he's on his. I think he's always done it for himself, but I think now he's really just. He's at an age where I think he's just really drawn to stuff he's drawn to, and that's what he's going to do. And that's fine. I appreciate it. I love it. And I'll always hold him in high regard in terms of filmmaking. God. He's a legitimate auteur. But I think this is one of his gems where I think it just went under the radar because I think, he came back. I think he did Last Temptation after this. And then he went on to make Goodfellas. And so I think it was kind of like a low point in his career because he had just come off of, I think, New York Stories,
Okay.
that which didn't do well.
Right.
And so he needed a hit, and I think this was it. Yeah, Newman said he loved it. Tom Cruise says he loved working on it. I think, and it shows in film that it's just a great told, great,
Right.
solid shot, solid. Yeah, I give it. To me, this is a 10 out of 10. I love this movie.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's so super watchable. It's a 10 out of 10 for me as well. And you, I mean, I don't think a lot of people know that this is a Scorsese movie.
Yeah,
Until I mean, our generation saw this as a Tom Cruise movie.
yeah,
Our parents saw it as a Paul Newman movie. It's all of those things at the same
yeah,
time. It can be all of those things individually. You can watch it. You can watch Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise. Say what you will about Tom Cruise. When he's on the screen, you have to pay attention to what's happening. He is such a phenomenal actor in everything that he does, and I'm
yeah,
unabashedly a Tom Cruise fan when it comes to now. I won't watch. I don't think I've seen all the Mission Impossible movies. I appreciate them when I do see them. I know how much of he does all his own stunts and all that. I enjoyed Maverick, Top Gun 2. I didn't think we needed it, but it was on an airplane and I had a 5-hour flight, and so I watched it and I was like, I enjoyed that.
yeah,
But with Scorsese in this, it does totally fly under the radar. Where I was like, this is Scorsese. I had to remind myself, and having watched it dozens of times before even realizing it, now certainly appreciating it.
Well,
Watching
I
it
think
for the filmmaking and storytelling ability, just by the choices that he makes in filming it, brilliant. Just
right.
brilliant movie.
Well, like I brought up at the beginning, I think Tom Cruise, and I think he's going back to it now, but he front loaded his career. I mean, look at he did Taps. He does The Outsiders with Coppola. He does A Legend with Ridley Scott. The next year, he does his brother Tony Scott in Top Gun. He does A Color of Money with Scorsese. He does Rain Man in '88 with Barry Levinson.
Yeah.
And then he does Born on the 4th of July in '89 with Oliver Stone. He
Yeah.
works with Tony Scott, Ron Howard, Rob
Yeah.
Reiner, Sidney Pollack, Neil Jordan, Brian De Palma, Cameron Crowe, Stanley Kubrick, and Paul Thomas Anderson. I mean, he's just ripping off all these movies. Whereas now I think, and again, it goes up to 2003, which I think is a point where he says, okay, I'm just going to do some action stuff for a while, which he does. Like I said, he does Valkyrie and he does Rock of Ages, but that's in the teens. So, I mean, he does these parts, but he's very much doing the action thing now. But now I think he's doing more of the character stuff, the smaller film. Because I think
Mm-hmm.
what happens is, I think when Tom Cruise gets on your production, I think he kind of overtakes it. Not in a way of like he's directing it, but in a
Mm-hmm.
way of like, I'm in this movie, so I'm going to be the best that I can. So I'm going to kind of, I'm told that he has production offices on set all the time. He works with the stunt crew. He's
Yeah.
basically works with the stunt coordinator to do all these stunts, which are impressive, and hats off
Yeah.
to him. It's
Yeah.
why I love him. He's still as charismatic as ever.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I
He's
think
easy
this
on
is
the
one of his
eyes.
best.
I mean, and there was a kind of a lull, like you mentioned. That's actually a really, really great point. And when I think, kind of shocked the world with he worked with Ben Stiller.
Yeah.
The Ben Stiller directed Tropic Thunder. When he comes in as Les Grossman with the oversized hands and the super hairy knuckles, that character, talk about being in a movie for like 7 minutes, and then of
Yeah.
course the end credits. The Les Grossman character, playa, dude. I will watch those just Les Grossman scenes, and that movie, by the way, we need to do because it's so far ahead of its time, and not okay and ridiculous and genius and all of those things with that ensemble cast. And then Tom Cruise playing a character that he'd never played before in like a comedy where everybody knows he's this big, his religious and then his thing with Katie Holmes, and he needed something, right? There was something that needed to come around, and people were kind of labeling him as a weirdo at the time, and then he comes in with the Les Grossman character, and I think everyone was just all, fuck it, dude. Tom Cruise he's the best.
Yeah.
He's our generation's Paul Newman, if you will.
Yeah.
And he's what, 5'7", little guy, Giants fan.
That's right, huh?
Yep. He's a Giants fan.
Yeah. So I think it's time to name our Game 6 Klay Thompson Award. Do you got one for this?
I absolutely do, and it's Janelle.
Janelle.
It's Eddie's girlfriend, Janelle. We meet her in the opening scene. She
That's a great choice,
a hustler.
Dude.
She's a hustler in and of herself. She is tasting the bourbons, going, "You're right. I can't take." And she comes to Eddie's. She loves Eddie, and all she's been wanting to go to the Bahamas. And he calls her every time that he's going through an existential crisis. He calls her, and she's there for him, and she cares deeply. And then when he finds out that Carmen and Vincent have played them with the two brothers, one stranger, she's a little asshole or something like that. That she says, "Yeah, you know, I love her. I needed more of Janelle. She's a gem. She's an angel. She's a likable character."
I think in
a film with a bunch of unlikable characters, she is a sweetheart, and I adore her. I adore that character, Janelle.
I think she evens out Eddie too. I think she's the voice of reason in him. When he goes too far one way, she's the one that kind of brings him back. I love that character as well too. Great choice, dude.
Thank you.
Mine is Julian, played by John Turturro.
Well done.
I think he plays that character so well. Just a slime ball, low level hustler who doesn't really know what he has in Eddie until Eddie leaves to stay course Vince. And you see him at the beginning, and then you don't see him. You see him until the end. He sees him in Atlantic City, and he says, "Hey," sees him in the green room. "Hey, I just wanted to come by and say hi."
Yeah, right.
And he just plays it so well. When he comes out at the beginning and he's fast, he's like, "Oh, check the mirror before you leave the bathroom. I hate that shit."
Right. Which he does.
It's better than that shit. I just love his sliminess in this movie.
Yeah.
And great. He does this kind of the same thing in The Big Lebowski. He does those little itty bitty parts, and he just does so well with them. I love it. So, yeah, mine is Julian.
That's great.
Yeah. So, cool, man. Any final thoughts on this?
Boy, I'd say go back. Oh, I do have a final thought. I went around. I mentioned that my mom got us pool cues. I went and found my pool cue, and I will just say that most pool cues come in two pieces, like you see them building their sticks together. And the reason why is because this is a long-ass thing to carry around with you, right? But what I'm sure I noticed it at the time, and I'll hold this up to the camera. Hopefully you can see it. Oh, I'm scraping the popcorn ceiling. I got the bestest on me. This is because we were into The Color of Money. My mom bought my brother and I pool cues, and this is Minnesota Fats, The Hustler. So it's connected to. I was looking at it earlier, and I'm just all. I'm sure I knew this, but I'm going to call my mom after this and tell her, "Hey, thanks for the Christmas present from 35 years ago. I appreciate it. It's great. We need to go out. You and I go out and shoot some pool one of these days, buddy."
Yeah, I'm down.
You in?
Yeah, I'm down. Definitely.
Let's bring it back. Let's bring it back.
I got my final thoughts. It's still one of my favorite movies. I've said that throughout this podcast. It's just one of my faves. It's one that I don't think not nearly as enough as it should. Like I said, it's this underrated gem. I think it's one of those movies that it's not made anymore. It's not a superhero movie. There's not a lot of action in it. Like I said, it's a character study, and it's a great character study about just people that are just trying to eke their way through life, and they find something. And but what does that do to your soul? You know, do you have to sell your? What does that do to you? What does that do to you as a person? What are you giving up? What are you? You know, there's a lot of times these people will self-destruct. You know, which is Eddie's case in The Hustler, and you know,
And
you
in
tend to
this,
love something so much that it just kills you. And so you kind of wonder after this, is that what happens to Vincent? You know, and it's just a great movie. Love it. One of my top faves, top three, I would say. And I'm glad we did it this week. So yeah,
yeah, I am too. And let me just say this too, just to put a point on what you're saying too, is even though time and time again, Fast Eddie from 1961 to 1986 is finding himself, no matter how much he thinks he's mastered the game and how much he is his wisdom in all of the times that he's failed and come back and failed and come back. These are things that are going to continue to happen to you. When Forrest Whitaker's character Amos he's like, I showed my ass out there. You're gonna fall, and it's not. I think I want to say that it was Confucius that said it's not in the amount of times that you fall, it's how you pick yourself back up. So these are all very flawed people. We're all flawed people, and they're gonna have their highs and they're gonna have their lows, and we get to see them at the very final scene where he's like, listen, if I don't beat you here, I'm going to beat you in Dallas. And if I don't beat you in Dallas, I'm going to beat you over. And then it's like, there's nothing in Dallas. You're like, Carmen's over in the off screen, and she's just like, she knows the schedule. They're going to be battling for the time. Hey, I'm back. So right now he's back, but chances are these things, don't let yourself get down. You fall a couple times. Don't let that be the end. Pick yourself back up, get back out there. You're going to make mistakes no matter how much you think you've got it mastered. You are going to make mistakes again. You're a human being. And I think that this movie really shines a light on that, where it's like, it's not is it a redemption? It is today. But again, it's going to happen. Don't let it get you down. Learn from it and move forward.
And that is the final. Well, thanks. All right. Well, thanks, Tope, for joining me on this. Thanks
you,
for everybody
Stephen.
else that's listening, to watching. Thanks for coming on this journey with us. Tell us about what you think about this movie in the comments. Give us some comments, a like. Make sure you follow and like. It really helps the channel out. It really helps us out. And we will see you again next week. Thanks for listening. Bye, everybody.
Bye.